This week, it's Unhinged versus Don't Go in the Woods Alone.
Broadcasting from a project studio that's more project than studio. It's Cinema Diabolica's Battle of the Band B Movies. The show that will once and for all crown an undisputed king of Britain's video nasties. And now, here's your hosts, F13 and DeeZee.
Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Cinema Diabolica's Battle of the Band B Movies. I don't know why I did it so dynamically that time. I'm trying to pretend that I'm hyped, but I'm really not. I am F13.
This is DeeZee, and maybe I'll bring it down a little low because we're so excited about these movies.
This is going to be the high contrast show where we go from super down to super up and excited.
And maybe it'll just be a roller coaster ride, but this really just makes me wonder what the fuck what was going on in the UK that everybody was so bored that these movies excited them.
There's probably no actual reasoning behind that, DeeZee, so don't think too hard about it. You'll make yourself go cross-eyed. Our features this week are Unhinged and Don't Go in the Woods Alone. You gotta have the beat there.
Because there is an ellipses.
Or you could just say ellipses. Don't go into the woods, ellipses, alone. Although, if you say that one piece of punctuation and then don't say the exclamation point, are you being inconsistent?
I would say you're being inconsistent.
Okay, so
unless you accomplish doing the alone part super excited.
Okay,
no,
so
hold on. Exclamation points are tricky. Mm-hmm. Generally good writers don't actually use them.
Right.
But if you do it either super excited or almost screechy, like you're freaking out, which way would you go?
I would do screechy. It would be something like, don't go in the woods, ellipses. Alone!
I like how you still said ellipses.
Well, that was the point, wasn't it? Like, so we could not have to do the pause. We could just say ellipses and then not have to say exclamation point because we're emoting the word. So it's implied.
Now, the real trick is people looking up this movie, are they going to add the ellipses or are they going to spell out ellipses? And is autocorrect going to do it properly?
That's a good question.
How is this more exciting than talking about movies? Let's get into it.
And we're going to have to get into it because there is no feedback this week. And you know what that means.
Oh, shit.
Hey, kids. Cinema Diabolica needs listener feedback. So drunk dial the show at 510-698-9066. Or drunk email the show at cinemadiabolica@gmail.com. Because if you don't, you're going to leave Dingles the Clown very disappointed, and he might have to show up in your dreams.
Oh, God, I really hate doing that to you guys. No, I don't.
Oh, you love it, don't lie. Especially when we get scorning everyone.
When we were doing that show last week, I almost called him Shorn Testicle. Because that's what in my head, that's what I say, and then giggle whenever I say it to myself. So if anything else was going to guarantee we get some feedback, me saying the words "shorn testicle" on the air is probably the best guarantee that he will be sending us an angry tirade, exposing us for the charlatans that we are.
Well, then here's the question. Do you think he's the type to be addicted to shaving his entire body, or he stretches his scrotum?
Wow, that's kind of, I don't know what those two things have to do with each other. Like, you really just said, like, I don't know if he's the type to go fishing or run the or run the 50-yard dash. I don't know if those things are compatible. He might be the types that likes hamburgers or trips to Florida. I don't know. We have to ask him.
And that'll be a thing. We'll just ask. We're profiling Scorn Mandible. Do you think he is into beans or loves Salvador Dali? It's Salvador. I was Alvador. Who the fuck is that? Salvador Dali.
Right. Is he the kind of person that likes to listen to jazz or the kind of person that's grumpy first thing in the morning? What do you think? A or B? Please, just answer the question, folks.
Oh, my God. And then we'd have to do a composite drawing by the end of it.
Mm-hmm. And it would be like a caricature, the kind that you get at the fair.
Oh, or during a police investigation.
They don't draw caricatures during police investigation. Okay, you know what? We're done with
Are you
this.
sure?
I'm positive that there's no such thing as a caricature in a police investigation because that doesn't look like a real human being.
They don't look real anyway. They always look the damn same. They have big eyebrows and a narrow face.
I don't want to know about your history of going into police stations and looking at police sketches as a hobby. Our first feature this week is Unhinged, and we'll get to it right after these messages.
You're listening to Cinema Diabolica. Number 1 with a bullet.
It began as an idyllic weekend outing, but something went wrong. Stranded, alone, or are they?
Man, something really weird is going on around here.
Terry, what is the matter?
Man, that's weird.
He tried to kill me!
Unhinged. The nightmare has begun.
All right,
And that's how the stork fucks a baby.
Oh my god, that was probably the worst day of my entire life. There's no point putting it off any further, though. Our first feature this week is Unhinged.
I think England at the time hated Portland, Oregon.
Well, to be fair,
I mean,
don't most people? Let's be honest. Don't most people hate Portland, Oregon?
well, it is intriguing that being up here in Washington now, I'm seeing so much more reporting about Portland, Oregon.
Mm-hmm. And the horrible.
It's like, no, there's nothing going on in Seattle except for budgetary problems.
Mm-hmm.
But hey, let's go back to Portland.
Yeah, there you go. So in this corner, hailing from 1982 and weighing in at 79 minutes, which felt like 9 hours. Unhinged.
9 hours just in the middle.
Mm-hmm. Our IMDb-style synopsis says, 3 college girls on their way to a jazz festival, bullshit, crash their car in the isolated woods during a rainstorm and are taken in by a mysterious family in a dark mansion. Little do the girls know, the family has a dark, murderous secret. That is actually one of the more concise and accurate synopses we've read in a long time.
With the exception of it being a jazz fest, because they just said music fest.
Oh, did they never actually say jazz festival?
Yeah.
Well, you just fucking ruined it. You soiled it.
No, but it is actually a pretty decent... the synopsis is better than the movie.
Soiled it. The synopsis is soiled.
Just real quick, right off the bat. So we're introduced to a black screen
for a long fucking time.
Minute?
Yeah.
Yeah. And we're hearing stories about inflation, this music festival, and taco time.
Mm-hmm.
I actually wanted to get a taco watching that because it probably would have been more entertaining.
It's kind of until the end of the introduction. Until the end of the introduction, it's just completely black screen with like text appearing every now and again. And that's kind of a good parable. That let me know what I was in for.
But then the synth showed up, the synth music.
The film's only saving grace is the synth music.
It is pretty great. There is a rock song, and it's the only time that it's non-synth music. When they're in the car, it's on the car radio, and it actually sounded pretty good, like decent 70s rock.
Right. So there's really nothing to talk about in this movie until the late game. I have one note for the movie. Nothing happens until 40 minutes in. Nothing.
Yeah.
The first
okay,
kill, the first kill or even glimpse of violence, gore, or cruelty is at 40 minutes, or it was like 38 and 56 seconds or whatever. But I round up. So at that point, I looked at this. I was like, okay, I'm marking down a scene of violence, gore, or cruelty, and I noticed there were 2 sexploitation scenes because at the very beginning there was a quick glimpse of some shower titties, and then
shower.
And then later on,
oh, that sounds like the best female band name ever.
Oh yeah, that's definitely a thing that should happen. Listeners, start a band called Shower Titties and send us a CD. And then around like the 20 to 25 minute mark, there is a second scene of shower titties. Both girls are in the shower. Just kind of like one's in the shower, one's out of the shower. But that's pretty much it. Nothing else really happens. Girls drive car off of road. Girls get rescued by family in house. Then they putz about for about 40 minutes, and then there's a kill.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much it. I mean, obviously there's the attempt at like, hey, something's wrong in this house. These people aren't quite right. But that only happens not long before the kill, and it's very minimal. Well,
the only kind of foreshadowing that they give is, again, on the radio, you hear that 2 girls had recently been missing, and then, makes like 23 missing girls in this area.
Right.
And it's awkward. It was kind of like forced foreshadowing because it doesn't play out quite, in that manner.
No, it doesn't.
And, yeah, man. It takes forever for anything to happen in this movie, yes. And when it does, it's so they were using Portland locals, so you kind of give her you basically are taking your chances when it comes to the level of acting, but in this case, they had access to a gorgeous mansion to film in, and there's nothing to write or to be upset about when it comes to the actual filmmaking. I mean the techniques were solid, but the storytelling and the pacing and the editing were just appalling.
Yeah, this doesn't. You know how I always say I always I exercise my contempt for overly indulgent editing. This isn't overly indulgent editing. This is the lack of editing. There's no doubt in my mind that they just filmed these scenes and just stuck them in there.
Yeah, and there's a lot of aerial shots of the car at the beginning. I'm like, oh, are we going to just, that actually would have been interesting if they had just basically floated above everybody the entire time. It was like angel cams.
It's like, seriously, the only movie that I've ever seen with this much just uneventful, boring car driving scenery is Manos. The beginning of Manos Hands of Fate has like 10 minutes of car driving. But at least that one had a dialogue. This is just car driving.
Yeah, and I wrote down here on my notes, red herring alert when the synth starts up. Because there are quite a few red herrings in here that don't play out very well.
Right. It just kind of seems like it's an attempt at content.
Yeah, and the thing is that when you get towards the end, now the ending is a little bit of a different story because you get more, but then you go, wait, this actually just opens up more questions. It's like when you get to the ending, you go, okay, this kernel of interesting stuff that's going on could have been planted and made better if they'd fleshed it out.
Right.
But since they apparently didn't really start at the end, basically they didn't. Some people will write where they have a clear ending in mind. This one meanders, so it's like they really didn't have that good, solid endpoint to work backwards from in the writing. So I think that's where its biggest flaw is. But the reveal is so awkward, but it does make me think that it was possibly the inspiration for Sleepaway Camp, and I'll just leave that there.
Right? Yeah. So we're not spoiling either movie by saying that, but the ending is incredibly close to the ending of Sleepaway Camp. which makes us think that Sleepaway Camp may have taken a note or two from this movie. It's like one of those things where you see something, it's terrible, and you go, hey, there was a small amount of quality in that. I could take that and make something amazing with it.
Right, but at the beginning of this movie, it leads you or led me to think that they might have been borrowing from The Last House on the Left,
which
although it takes a completely different turn.
Right, which was the popular movie to rip off at the time.
Yeah, and the dialogue, and man, we're just like beating a dead horse here, because again, they had a kernel of an idea that I thought was pretty interesting, but you only see that towards the end. The dialogue, the way the mother and Marion deliver it is just awful. No one talks like this, like those characters do. And I think there was an attempt to show their isolation, but then you have to wonder, okay, so if they're isolated, really, other than the mother, why are they isolated? B, just there's so many questions. They have a beautiful mansion that they worked with, and yet they just seem to underutilize it. But there's a weird meta moment towards I want to say the middle. It's hard to judge because the middle was so fucking drawn out. Where Nancy says, she's talking about hearing voices and feeling like she's being watched, and she doesn't like the mother because she's just so awful, and she says, "This new twist gives me the willies." She's like, it's almost like a Scream moment, if you will.
Right.
The thing is, I think people get upset about Scream being, too much self-reference, but I think we had kind of been leading towards that for a long time, only that was like the Scream may have been the culmination, even though other movies had obviously done it. So there's a point, too, where we're getting like a big info dump, and I'm thinking it's going to go into a flashback, where I even wrote Marion's flashback, ? Oh, just background. What did her dad do to the 8-year-old girl? Institution? So should we just go to the scores?
Yeah,
just say, fuck it, we're done.
Yeah, I kind of don't have anything else to say about this movie because there kind of isn't really anything else to this movie. And I've said that a lot in the last few weeks, but never has it been truer than right now. Unhinged does not have very much going on in it at all. It's very, very threadbare. You could probably
throw it on while you're doing your crochet.
You could probably turn it on in the last 15 minutes and pretty much understand what's happening. The script is very threadbare.
Yes. Again, you could, oddly enough, skip the first minute, be introduced to the girls. So you're like, oh, okay, those are the victims.
Right.
And then skip all the way to the last 15 minutes. I don't even think you really need to pause to listen to the mother's dialogue because it's atrocious. Just, you know what? Just watch the last 15 minutes. In fact, that would be the easiest fan edit ever.
Definitely. So I just realized we didn't link up before the show and compare notes on the scores. So we're just going to go with your scores. How many scenes of violence, gore, or cruelty?
5 scenes of violence, and that's kind of closer to a 4.5 because there's a scene where basically a woman falls into a gore pit, essentially. Right, and
it's not overtly profane, doesn't show a lot, but a thing happens. So 4.5 to 5, we'll go with 5. Just nothing's gonna save this movie. It's not gonna be that point that pulled it out of the fucking gutter.
Oh no, the deciding factor.
How many scenes of sexploitation?
2.
Yeah, just the original 2.
The shower titties.
Yeah, just two scenes of shower titties, and that's basically it. It had lots of boring banter, mumbled apathetic dialogue, almost non-existent plot, an incredibly unsatisfying ending, and a script with the least amount of actual content this side of an empty fucking notebook.
I think I wrote more in my notebook than was written for the screenplay.
Right. The screenplay was like, oh, there's like some chicks, and then they get taken in by this Texas Chainsaw Massacre family, and then like one of them ends up being a nut, and he kills them, and then that's the end.
What's my motivation?
No motivation, man. I find it to be offensive.
Just don't be a drag, man.
Come on, man.
That would be the most amazing script to see ever. It's like, yeah, kind of like, kill, and we'll squirt blood on you.
Yeah. So like your motivation here is like, to kill. Like, that's what you want to do right now is do some killing, okay? I got this bucket of blood and pig parts, and then we're going to, like, totally dump it on you while you're killing. So just, kind of play with the scenery and feel it out.
Shit, we ran out of blood.
That's fine. Okay, I was going to say something about my syphilis has gotten to the point where I'm peeing blood anyway. So, but you know what? We don't need to go there. We don't need to go there. We can end this review right now and save ourselves from falling into the kind of gutter that Unhinged lives in.
How would you make your syphilis spray as opposed to spurt?
I don't think syphilis spurts or sprays. I think syphilis is a disease of the brain. So, stuff and things.
Moving on.
Moving on. Does this movie deserve to be on the Video Nasties list?
Only if you pause it on the wrong scene.
If you were to pause it on the wrong scene, yeah. If you were to pause it during a shower scene, then maybe. But the quick cuts that they made to avoid. What's funny is in Cannibal Man, when we talked about the use of the Alfred Hitchcock style quick cuts, so that it makes you think you've seen violence, but if you go back and look at the frame by frame, you actually haven't. This isn't like that at all. No, this is more like they were trying to do that, but then like the quick cuts, they used the cut that was like right after the person swung and right after they got hit. So it's just like a bunch of quick flashes of like, what the fuck was that? Like, what's happening? And then the person's lying on the ground covered in blood and you're like, oh, they're dead? That was I see. That was a kill scene. I got it. Incredibly fucking sloppy, very poor, not at all worthy of being so bad that it was banned. It was added to the Video Nasty list. Definitely does not belong on the list.
But the cover, as I was saying to you earlier, actually is pretty cool. It's certainly not suggestive. It's not like Driller Killer where it has a drill. You actually see the scene where the drill is going into the guy's head. This one's just a blood spattered face.
Right. So yet again, I think it was probably the VHS cover that got it on the list.
Or, you know what? It bored them so badly. They were like, oh, my God, I don't want anyone to see this movie.
That's a good point. Our next feature is Don't Go Into the Woods, ellipses, alone! And we will we'll tackle that monster after these messages. Hey, kids. Do you want to help out Cinema Diabolica any way that you can? I didn't think so, but I reserved the studio time, so we're going through with this anyway. Here's a few ways you can help Cinema Diabolica right now. Subscribe on YouTube and like our videos. Leave us 5-star reviews on iTunes. Friend us and like show posts on Facebook. And of course, you can drunk dial us at 510-698-9066. And drunk email us at cinemadiabolica@gmail.com. Cinema Diabolica. We don't want your money, just your love.
For some people, a simple warning is never enough. By the time Alma heard it, it was too late. Something's out there in the woods, and it's killing people. Joni never thought it could happen to her. Ingrid and Peter couldn't believe it happened to them. Something's out there, waiting. Something a little bit wild and crazy. For some people, a simple warning is never enough. It's your decision. If you want it chopped off, just take it to the woods. Remember, the call of the wild is the last thing on earth you want to hear. Don't go in the woods. It's coming soon. For some people, a simple warning is never enough.
Hey now. Our second feature this evening, weighing in at a hefty, and I only say hefty because it felt like forever, 82 minutes, and hailing from 1981, Don't Go in the Woods, ellipses, alone!
Okay, so now that you've said hey now, you have a song stuck in my head.
Thank you.
Thank you, 80s.
So here's your quote-unquote synopsis.
Oh, hold on. This synopsis is phenomenal.
This is the beefiest synopsis that I've ever actually given in to reading, but DeeZee says that it is phenomenal, so I relented, and I will read this. This is basically the script.
This is true.
All right. 4 young campers, Peter, Ingrid, Craig, and Joni, backpack through the mountains for a relaxing weekend in the wilderness. They are out camping in broad daylight while someone else is killing tourists in the woods. Craig warns the others not to go into the woods alone. The hillsides are crawling with fat women huffing up hillsides. That was uncalled for.
I told you it was great.
Nerdy bird watchers and young couples, most of whom meet gruesome ends at the hands of a deranged and growling backwoodsman with a sharp spike.
Oh, they gave it away.
Who announces his presence by shaking the nearest branch and whooping. The happy campers don't see a man and his wife being chucked off a cliff whilst they splash about in the river below. They enter a forest which becomes denser and darker as they progress. Peter and Ingrid fear that they are lost. What the are these like cliff notes? What the fuck is this guy doing? Something large suddenly comes lunging forward with a gleaming machete.
This is so awful.
This is so awful. Craig slips dead to the ground as the machete cuts him up. Peter and the others flee screaming into the forest. The rest of the day and terrifying night is spent running and hiding from the maniac murderer who is constantly in pursuit. Meanwhile, the local sheriff and his deputy decide they should start to investigate some of those disappearances. You know who wrote this? Sujit R. Varma. This is I recognize this name now because every time we read an awful synopsis on IMDb, I look at who wrote it, and every fucking time it's Sujit R. Varma. Fuck you, Varma. All right.
Although I have to give props, I think Peter and the Others sounds like a really interesting dark fairy tale.
Peter and the Others. I was gonna say, is this another band that you're coming up with here to play along with Shower Titties tomorrow night at the pit? Shower Titties and Peter and the Others.
Oh my god, I would go to that show.
I probably am going to that show tonight.
Oh, there you go. Mm-hmm. So we'll have to get this recording done quick.
Indeed.
Let's start off with the 3 rules, though.
Okay.
First, don't panic.
Okay.
Second, go up, not down.
Right.
And third, never go in the woods alone.
Okay.
See, I had to have an opportunity to say alone like that.
Indeed. I'll follow those rules, and then there'll be no movie.
I know, exactly. It's like, okay. My first note here, by the way, is, yay, more acting.
They're acting. Well, it's more acting than was done in Unhinged. I watched Unhinged first, so watching this afterwards was like, okay, this feels a little bit better, because in Unhinged, they just like mumble and like just like kind of like through the whole movie. In this one, they're horribly like it's this the corny, like overacting, and this movie is completely ridiculous, but not in a kind of way, more in a what the fuck kind of way.
Yeah, I actually am having a hard time totally hating this movie.
I didn't hate it. It was too long. It went on for too long, but I didn't hate it. It wasn't good in any way, shape, or form, but it was pretty laughable. I'll give it that.
Okay, by the way, in the synopsis, you know how it reads, they're wandering around in broad daylight while someone else in the woods is killing people. I'm wondering if this was sort of like the parallel to Unhinged, where Unhinged was, they're just doing stuff in broad daylight. And then this movie is there's killings all over the place. Because there's, right off the bat, you're introduced to the 4 main people. And you go, okay, so they have principal role because they're actually speaking, where you're just seeing a ton of other people showing up and being dispatched quickly, and it's like, holy crap, this killer is the most active killer I've seen in film ever.
He gets more done before 4 a.m. than you get done all day.
Yeah, and when you actually see him, you go, wait a minute, how is he actually moving that fast through the woods?
Yeah.
Okay, so some of my notes here. And I'm not quite sure what this one sentence means, but ugh, Dick repeats too much. And is Bigfoot the killer? And finally, we see it's a cave hillbilly. I'm not sure what cave hillbilly means, but anyway. Craig is a dick. Random body count. Double-decker cabin in the woods. What the fuck? Did he look at her cross-eyed?
I thought you were going to say, did he look at her crotch?
Oh, well, he probably did. I mean, there was, someone dangling up in the tree at one point.
Oh, there you go.
What the fuck, wheelchair dude? Oh, stupid inclusion. Makes no sense. And I like the sheriff. He didn't scream in the cabin. I have no idea what that means exactly. And hey, after I spear the psycho, let's make out.
Okay, you've convinced me, DeeZee. We'll make out after the psycho spearing. Don't Go in the Woods Alone doesn't ever go anywhere. It starts with people in the woods and killing. That's how the movie starts. That's how the movie progresses, and that's how the movie ends. Nothing else ever happens.
Well, hold on. Now, one guy who doesn't look like he'd be able to get any date for prom, because he looks like he's in his 50s. He has a woman in his van, and that's like the weirdest moment in the movie because it takes forever for anything to happen, and yet somehow a van is still thrown off a cliff.
Right. It takes forever. It takes forever for anything to happen, and then what does happen is the van is thrown off a cliff somehow.
Which I'm still trying to figure out. I'm wondering, do you get Bigfoot powers if you live in the woods too long?
Yeah, there was a time that I had lived in the woods for a little too long, and I did start turning into a Yeti. I will say that.
That explains the body hair.
Mm-hmm. I hate you. Anywho's, what was I going to say here? Yeah, so the movie, it never goes anywhere. It's pretty much the same concept and or idea for the entire thing. You could pretty much start or stop watching it at any point, and the ridiculous, like, just it doesn't have an ending. It's kind of just stops at a certain point. It doesn't really make any difference. It's not really worth anything. It's not boring, so it automatically scores higher than Unhinged. I will say that it is far gorier than Unhinged.
Oh, by far. There's one scene in Unhinged which does get a little bit bloody, even though it's handled poorly.
Right. And
there's a comparable scene in this one, in Don't Go in the Woods, where they're filing out the cabin, and I was actually kind of rooting for her. I was hoping that she would make it, but she doesn't. And it's a really kind of long sequence where he's bloodying her up.
Right.
Oh, and there's the nerdy bird watcher who doesn't manage to scream, and yet his body parts are falling off left and right. That was very much a Black Knight moment. I love the shit out of that sequence.
Right. I enjoyed it as well. I watched it twice, actually, because I was like, wait, hold on. I was like, something's not right here. We watch this again? Oh, okay. He's not screaming, but his body parts seem to be flying away from him.
Yeah. They threw everything they could at just, they're like, yeah, we have woods we can go into. We have some people who are willing to be on camera for nothing. And we have access to a cafeteria, which you just go, wait a minute. So they're talking about these poor kids who have survived this ordeal, and the sheriff and his deputy are sitting with her in a cafeteria instead of like an office. And you're like, oh, okay, we can see where their budget went.
Right.
Totally guerrilla style. And, it's like they were really trying to compensate for their lack of,
Script.
ability. Because this definitely is a first film. If this is someone's like second or third film, shame on them.
Well, I'll say this. I don't hate this movie for what it was. They just, like I said, it wasn't boring. They took it, turned the volume way up with lots and lots of gore, lots of violence. It just, it's executing on an extremely high level. Let's see, director James Bryan. Let's see, filmography, director. Don't Go in the Woods Alone is his 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11th film.
What?
Oh, wait, no, sorry. I was counting from the wrong side. Why the fuck? It wasn't always like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's his 8th film.
Oh, are you looking on a mobile phone? Because that IMDb fucks that up. They'll do the most famous first.
Right. So let's see. Let's go through all of his films here. Starting from 1967, The Inner Limits, The Dirtiest Game, Escape to Passion, which sounds like a porn, a softcore like.
It all sounds like porn. The Inner Limits? Are you kidding me?
I Love You Not. High School Fantasies.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but The Inner Limits, the sequel is It Can't Go Deeper.
Yes, of course it is. Beach Blanket Bango. Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God. They didn't even try. They're like, oh, we'll just change one letter.
Right. Boogie Vision. Don't Go in the Woods, The Executioner Part 2. The Executioner Part 1, nowhere to be seen on here, but Executioner Part 2, Hell Riders, Lady Street Fighter. Oh, he's the guy that did Lady Street Fighter.
What?
Really? I did not know that. Swedish.
It's after this movie that he must have really improved his game. I mean, he's doing porn all this time. He's like, yeah, violence is kind of like porn. That's why I did Don't Go in the Woods.
Swedish Erotica 73, Sex Aliens, Bizarre Encounters, Whatever Turns You On, The Hottest Show in Town, Thanks for the Memories.
Oh, no. Now I want to see Sex Aliens and Thanks for the Memories.
And his last film was Run, Coyote, Run.
What? Okay. I'm just thinking, Run, Coyote, Run. He suddenly went into what, like, documentaries or something? Or was this like a sequel to Coyote Ugly or the prequel?
That's a good question. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm interested
apparently, he became famous because of the video Nasties, and that's because he overindulged in violence.
Right. I'm interested in Thanks for the Memories.
You know what? Maybe we'll have to see if we can uncover that one, because I imagine that actually being a difficult movie to find. And maybe I don't know. Maybe there's a bonus episode in our future.
Let's see. Thanks for the Memories, 1987. Let's see what we can find here. Thanks for the Memories, external reviews. It is a porn movie, in case you were wondering. VintageErotica.net. All right, let's see here.
Wait, so is 80? Yeah, I guess the 80s would be vintage. I just think vintage is like closer to the 70s, because 80s we start seeing landscaped bush.
Right. Oh, no, this is porn. This is just full-on porn, like explicit porn.
Oh,
yeah, this is just straight up porn.
Just shower titties, but dirtier?
No, hardcore porn.
Oh. Anal?
Starring Patty Plenty and Rhea Lucas. Take a lascivious
Patty Plenty. Oh, my God.
Patty Plenty looks like she's had a hard life. Take a lascivious peek at what goes on backstage at a body burlesque house. You'll be singing Thanks for the Memories when you take a look at these bodaciously endowed professionals. First meet sex-starved stripper Patty Plenty and her humongous hangers.
Oh, wow.
Okay, I'm done with this.
I think you just downloaded a virus on your computer just looking that up.
Oh, Jesus. Okay. All right, bring it back in.
Okay, so just real quick, now I'm imagining, because this is actually not the first time that we've come across someone who probably has had some sort of porn history under their belt before moving into movies, going over this nasties list. Now,
these porns were after Don't Go in the Woods. Oh.
But hold on, the Inner Limit sounds like a porn, and that was supposed to be the 60s.
Yeah, that was before it was before it. So he did porn his whole career, and it looks like maybe he did porn to finance his actual movies that he wanted to make.
That's what I would do.
Okay, well there you go.
I would do porn. Wait, hold on.
Okay, can we not?
But hold on. So my point being is that, like, say around the 70s, 80s, some people are making porn films, eventually moving into, actual films, I guess you could say.
Right.
But then we saw, like, in the 90s leading into now, where a lot of video directors, music video directors who transitioned into being feature film directors.
Right. So
it's kind of weird. It's like we do these kind of like throwaway crap for years, and then eventually we get our feature film chance. It's like, I'll do porn and we'll do music and But what's interesting is how porn it's turned itself around, so to speak, and has a bigger budget to be able to throw in special effects.
Yeah, you're the only one that thinks that's interesting. All right, so wrapping up Don't Go in the Woods Alone. Let's prepare these. We had 15 scenes of violence, gore, or cruelty, a huge goose egg. That's 0 scenes of sexploitation. It had bird watching, wacky acting, camper killing, the murder of a wheelchair-bound disabled person, and the most hilariously ridiculous ending this side of House by the Cemetery.
Oh, yeah. And that theme song, wowza.
Oh, boy. So let's see. 15 scenes of explicit gore. No sexploitation in this film, but 15 scenes of explicit gore. I don't think I have to tell you guys, but Don't Go in the Woods Alone handily defeats Unhinged.
Yeah, you get a crazy hillbilly coming at you out of the woods. You're going to be second fiddle to that if you're just a deranged, person living in a giant mansion.
Yeah, there's no competition there, really. I mean, it was a foregone conclusion. As soon as I started watching the second film, I was like, oh, yeah.
Well, one of the other things that I thought was kind of funny is that actually this movie is definitely watchable.
Yeah, like I'm saying, it's not bad, like unwatchable bad. It's stupid, kind of, and it's kind of
not
ridiculous.
Kind of. It is definitely stupid.
It's very stupid and it's very ridiculous, but it's like laughably stupid and ridiculous, and that's at least enjoyable, somewhat.
I mean, and we're saying this, and we watch it individually with a group.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
I could see myself showing this to several groups of friends.
This is a party movie for sure.
Definitely. Anyway, so Craig, who espouses this wisdom at the beginning, ends up doing one of the dickest things, halfway through the film to his I almost said his female lover, like his girlfriend, and ends up getting killed for it. So I guess together his just desserts.
Desserts.
Yes. Well, and that's the thing too, is like there's all this killing going on, but there's no insinuation of cannibalism.
Yeah, I don't think there needs to be.
There absolutely needs to be. If you have a hillbilly, he's eating people or he's raping people.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, there wasn't any insinuation of incest that caused the brain-fucked hillbilly either. So, yeah, I don't know.
But there is one insinuation later on, which you just go, that was a very Lloyd Kaufman kind of twist.
Yeah, it definitely was. So yeah, this has been another not as miserable as previous episodes, but underwhelming. Maybe underwhelming. We'll go with next week on the dais. We've got Love Camp 7, Nazi Exploitation, and Expose, aka House on Straw Hill, aka Trauma. I'm really, really hoping against hope for some insanity, for some something, anything.
Well, we know what to expect from Love Camp 7. It's
right.
Expose that is really going to be interesting. I'm looking forward to that one. Hopefully I'm not disappointed.
Right. The unknown quantity. I almost said quality. The unknown quantity that is Expose.
Well, I don't know. I think there's an unknown quality, too, considering the track record so far.
More than likely, yeah. That is definitely very true. So that's that. What did you think of this week's movies, DeeZee?
It's interesting. They both take place in the woods. Mm-hmm. They both, have some amount of violence.
True.
I was kind of hoping for maybe some more nudity or at least sex, but all we ended up was a hillbilly cock block and shower titties.
A few, underwhelming scenes of shower titties. I enjoy a good backwoods slasher, and neither of these really delivered on the level that I kind of prefer. Don't Go in the Woods Alone, clearly the winner, clearly the better film, but that doesn't say much, if anything.
It just reeks of, or it just informs us so much of the taste of Britain, of British, higher ups.
You hear that?
It's kind of condescending. Just thinking these two films were banned,
right?
I mean, Don't Go to the Woods. There's enough violence. The thing is, the quality of each violence adding up is probably what pushed it over the edge. But yeah, I don't know. And why is it that in the 80s we became so damn afraid of going into the woods?
Well, because that's where all the crazies were. That's where all the Satan cults and kidnappers were.
No, the Satan cults were in your daycare, and the serial killers are pretty much driving around in vans and VW Bugs.
Well, there you go. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. We really enjoyed doing it for you. If you did enjoy it, please subscribe and or like the video on YouTube. Friend us on Facebook. Like these posts and share them with your friends. Every little bit of help helps. I got to find a less awkward way of saying that. And thank you for your support, over all these years and all the 5-star reviews on iTunes and subscriptions in iTunes. And stuff. And
fan art. I want to see fan art. No, I don't think. Well, we've got art of our own, but I would love to see what people think of.
Did you
of what we look like?
DeeZee, have you already forgotten the dong inflator and the portrait of Jario?
I demand more. The dong inflator and Jario are the best, but we need more.
God damn it! I have to find the clip of that. The dong inflator. You remember that? You get a dog inflator. Like, dog inflator? I can just imagine you floating away and your dick's the size of a dirigible.
Oh my god! Oh, I'm starting to remember the exact picture too. That was fucking classic. That would make a great T-shirt along with shower titties on the back of the same shirt.
Listener Proto sent that over. He was a good dude. I wonder whatever happened to that guy. I think his name was Michael.
Hey, if anybody, any of our podcasting friends or people, that interconnectedness of all the podcasts that we're friends with, if you know where he went, contact him and say, hey, the show's back on. Because we still, every once in a while, hear from someone, oh, I didn't know your show was back on. It's like, well, here's the link.
Yeah, every now and again, we do still get people that hit us up and go, oh, wow, the show's back. I had no idea. And it's like, they don't mean for the battle. They mean at all. Like, they'd missed the entire decades. And they're like, oh, the show's back, huh? I had no idea. So, I mean, that is obviously because we're doing zero in the way of promotion for the show. So, so
it's all up to you.
So it's listeners, you hear that? It's all up to you to promote the show. Share these posts on Facebook. Share the YouTube videos. Like, thumbs up, subscribe, do all this sort of stuff. And there we go. All right, we hit the 45-minute mark. I am done with this shit now. I am F13.
This is DeeZee, and do video responses on YouTube, even if it's simply you flipping us the bird and saying, I love you like shit.
And we'll see you at the movies?
Let's go to the drive-in.
Help.